Hello. Right, this is a stream. Yeah, things are happening right now. Yeah, it's a very much random stream at nearly 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night in England. So hello. So before people do anything, I've got to do the things. This is a very impromptu stream. Is the best way of putting it. So I've got to post this on the Twitters. And yeah, stuff is going to be happening. I'm just trying to make sure I do everything correctly right now. So this is a bit unscheduled, and I'm still not exactly sure what I'm going to be doing. My original idea, or the idea that some gave me at least, was to work on WASM stuff for Odin. Which is probably a really good idea, actually, the more I think about it. But that means I'm going to have to write quite a lot and plan things as well, and I haven't even really set up the thing correctly. Like, this is all completely unplanned. So it really is going to be by my bootstraps at this point. So, let's do something. And I need to give it a name. So the idea was to make like a Flash alternative for Odin. When I say Flash, I don't mean the full on like the animator and such. I just mean like the core foundation stuff, so the rendering system. Which is a doable thing to do, by the way. So if I'm going to do the rendering system, I'm going to need I'm trying to think this through. A good way of doing things in general. So I'm going to give it a name. So we can't call it Flash. We could call it Gordon. Because I can do... I'm not doing a Brian Blessed impression. Even though it's actually one of the impressions that I can do. So I won't be using WebGPU. No, I'll just use WebGL is what I'm going to do. So WebGL is going to be there for compatibility reasons. But also because it'll be abstracted away anyway. So it'll be just like... You'll have your own command queue. So eventually you can put whatever you want in the background. But this is just the ideas that I've got. So also for tonight's little pudding, I've got a Sicilian lemon posset. It's very nice. It's in a jar, and I got it from the supermarket because it looked fine. Ow! Get myself a paper cut from it, kind of, or a plastic cut, or a glass cut, or a... How the heck do you mean to get this off? Like that. Oh, drawn blood. These things are deadly. Okay, this is also something I can eat whilst I'm on stream. You can see me eating. It'd be like an eating stream at this point. But I just wanted something possety, I guess. That's a technical term, right? Right. Very nice, actually. So, that's already the first blood. You can see this is going to be a brilliant stream. Right, so we need to set up a project. Before I show it on the screen, I'm just going to set this up here. So we need a better name than Flash. So someone going to make Sparks, Blink, no. Bill Lib is 2 on the nose. So, yeah, not Norse God. No. I'm still thinking Gordon. We could just call it Gordon. Right? Because reasons. Questioning my logic when it comes to Gordon is not necessarily the worst thing in the world, but it's not necessarily going to be the best either. So before I do anything else, let me just make sure that Odin is on to the latest version. It wasn't. And I'm also going to be doing a release build of the compiler. I'm doing Gordon. Just call it Gordon. It's a name, right? Right. So I can probably just shot in the scene now and you can see me. Okay. So you're not seeing me like, okay, so if I push myself a bit across, there you go, see me better. And probably make myself a little bit bigger. Yeah, that'll do. Whilst I eat this lemon posset still, while I think things through. Yeah, Gordon. Go for Gordon. And I'm going to call it, let's do build source out, and I'm calling it Gordon. And then we're going to do target, JavaScript WASM 32, I think is probably what we're going to have to do. So I'm going to create one there for source. In fact, we could probably just call it, yeah, source is going to be a better idea, because then inside that I'm going to have the Gordon in there, right? New file, I'm going to call it main, package, main. Sorry, you can't see anything I'm writing. That's probably too big. There-ish, right? Right? So, because what we're going to be doing is when we get to a stage, I'm going to have to go, Gordon's alive! I can't do more. I can't do Brian Blessed without swearing, and I'm not doing that right now. Right, Brian Blessed has a habit of just swearing a lot, so we need to get into that voice. It's going to get there. Okay. This is going to be the WASM one, and it says no such file as Gordon.o. And it's like, well, you're right. And it's made source.wasm. So let's do delete that. Gordon.wasm. Generates the WASM file. C'est magnifique. Perfect. Nothing wrong with that. Oh my god, that's scared. You're welcome. You're welcome. Right. So we're not doing Brian. We could probably just do a Brian Blessed voice, or even if you want. It's not that difficult to do that weird Yorkshire accent, but it's yeah, it's all right. No, we're not doing that. Not cool. What am I doing? What am I doing? Gordon. We're importing Gordon. That's what we're doing. Right. So when we're importing Gordon, there's nothing in it. There's an empty directory. By the way, I haven't had a drink yet. I've got the whiskey here. In fact, it is Highland Park, 12 years. Viking Honest. It's a very spicy, well matured and rounded beer. Well, it was a beer at one point, and then it got distilled and became a whiskey. But that's a thing for later, obviously. When I finish this lemon posset, and also that bloody. Why did I have to get a bloody finger? Literally, bloody. Right. Yeah, that'll do. Right. That lemon, that also a little pot I can use for something else later. It's like a tiny little ramekin of some sort. So we need to first set up something where we have a web browser where we can set this up so it's going to get working. So I need to copy and paste the runtime.js. This thing. Right, not runtime.js. So this is probably huge text. This is too huge even for me, but that's what she said. This is the interface that I'm going to have to be using. And for people who don't know, there's a README on here that explains where we're going to import into, when we go into Gordon here. New file, Gordon. We go into there. And we're going to import, which package is this in is the question. It's in vendor at the moment, which is fine. It makes sense when it was, but reasons. We've also going to have to use WebGL as well. So WebGL. I'm going to just import that as GL for the time being. There's a nice README here explaining how this is even going to work. So you're going to copy this into our little thing here. So I'm going to create a new file called index.html. I'm just going to do the HTML trick. Wow, look at that. We're going to call this Gordon. And then I need to put this script somewhere, I guess. So path to WASM, it's going to be runtime.js. Like that. And then we need the pre-element for the console. So we need to set up a pre, if there is one, ID. That's going to be the console. So let's call this the Gordon console. Document get element by ID. Like so. And then we need a place for the canvas as well that we're about to write. So there's an ID. And we need to give it a name. So we need to probably go for Gordon canvas. Right? So then the next thing... Oh god, that is really too big. Sorry, even... Just tell me when it's like too small. Yeah, Gordon Half-Life as well. Or Half-Life is one of my favorite games. So it's kind of more of a Half-Life 2 at least, I should say. Right, we're getting the Highland Park. I'm not getting the really good stuff out. This is pretty good stuff, to be honest with you. It's not the really good stuff because I've got Lagavulin. And that's for special occasions. Not what it is. This is more of a... This is good whiskey. Right. So, now we've got it. And I can't keep just doing the Brian Blessed voice because it's going to hurt my voice after a while. Because even though it's down in my diaphragm, the kind of voice, it's more of a... Yeah, it's going to be too much. So the problem I've got here is now I've got this set up. That should be working. And what I need to do is set up a web browser. So I'm going to use Python for this, actually. So I need to go into Odin, Gordon, Python -m. You can't see this, really. HTTP server. So this is hosting, launching up a little server. And I'm just going to go localhost 8000. And this loads up a server. And to prove it's there, I'm just going to write Gordon, Odin Gordon. And that should be like, I don't know. Not is it M dash? I can't remember right them. There we go. Let's do that. So that's working, but we have nothing that we're showing here yet. So I can't always remember how any of this works. So I'm going to have to probably put that up there, that down there, and then I'm going to look at the WebGL stuff. So the WebGL stuff is effectively I need to get it by the context. Yeah. And I'm not needing Gordon. Let's just ignore Gordon for the time being. Poor Gordon. I know. We've got GL here. GL create context by ID. So that is going to be the Gordon canvas, wasn't it? So Gordon canvas. And then we need to set some attributes as well. So what attributes were in this? Disable alpha, anti-alias, depth. That's fine by me. I think we can just do that. And then it's got an OK on there. So then we can set the current to context by the same thing. So we can call this context name. So GL context name, Gordon canvas. And in fact, let's just make this a global. It's never going to change. For at least what I'm working on. I'm going to assume that that's always the case. Just get stuff working. And then we can import Fumpt as well. Import Fumpt. And it should work because we've got this console. So if I wrote hello, build, sorry, GL, there is no, it says pre, and I got the ID of the console, right? That is valid JavaScript, right? Unless I've... Unexpected magic word. What? Sorry, what? I haven't done WASM in a long while. I have done Sublime stuff for SSH. It's not good. It's not good. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. Is WASM itself written in Java? No. Not all of Core and WASM work with WASM, obviously. Virtually most of Vendor does not work with WASM. Some of Core will. Depends if as long as it doesn't interact with the OS, it should be fine. I'm passing a JavaScript file to... Oh, fucking hell, you're right. Pardon me. So that's meant to be Gordon.wasm. It's a good... There we go. And it says hello. So we've got the... And in fact, just to make it correct, sorry, we shouldn't be saying hello. We should be saying hello. See? We've got the console here as well. And then I'm going to put a little bit of styling on that because I'm classy like this. And I'm just going to go border, 1 pixel, solid, black. Oh, black like the night. Right. So there's our console. And we've got all of this. So we've got all of the sizing and everything we want there. We effectively just want now a GL clear, and I'm going to put the clear color in here. Clear color. Oh, what color should we go for? I love a sky blue color. I always do this for like a nice little clear color. It's quite nice. That's clear color. And then in the clear bit, we just do color buffer. Is it bit? Oh, no. It needs to be GL clear color buffer bit like that. And look, we've got this. So we've got a size for the buffer, but the problem is this, the thing itself isn't really got a like draw buffer width. It's kind of more of a, we can't really set it because the canvas itself is being set. So if I set a width to be, I don't know, does 100% work? No. 100 VH? I don't know how you set all this. Okay, so I'm going to put some like, what am I doing? Style. Look, as you can tell, I'm not actually a web programmer. Gordon canvas. Gordon canvas like that, yeah. And then width, I want it to be like 100% effectively, right? Like that. But that's too much because it's now. I don't really want any border in this as well. So if I go to body, padding is going to be 0. So is the margin. Right, that's fine. Now, the height I'm going to do is like, I'm just keep it simple for me. I'm going to do 720 pixels. And actually, let's go even less than that. Let's go for 600 pixels. Just so we can see it on the stream. So we now got a nice width and size for it all. So we've got that setting up, right? So this is kind of showing eventually, the whole idea is eventually this will just be it, and then you set up everything else on top. That's the kind of the idea. I am using the WASM module, but I didn't realize, oh yeah, nice width and size. And it's a very nice width and size. It's very good to me, at least. So if I put here, style, text, align, center. Now, oh. Is that even a thing? No, it's not. Can I just do that and just rely on UTF-8? There we go. Brilliant. C'est magnifique. Wunderbar. Brilliant. Nice. Right on. Kind of thing. Okay. So we've got all this kind of going. we got this kind of nice little viewport. We're going to do this. So the idea that I've got is to create a rendering system that is going to be built on top of WebGL. People said, why not WebGPU? And the answer is, we don't need it. And also WebGPU doesn't work everywhere yet. So we're going to stick to WebGL at least. And what I want from WebGL at least is probably WebGL 2 as well. Sorry, I'm on the wrong one, so I meant to be here. There's WebGL 2, obviously. And I kind of, that's probably more than enough. I'm just scheduling for other things for work, my other job. Yeah, I'm not explaining. Fine. So we got all this, and there's all these different shader stuff we have to deal with, and have to deal with this like this. Even got some nice stuff to go on with the matrix stuff as well, which is not bad. So we could probably do that. I'm just trying to think how to structure this. Right, has anybody got any ideas about... We could probably... Oh, I know what I'm going to do, you know what? Let's look at Raylib. Not because Raylib is good or bad, but because at least it gives us a starting point about where to start. Right? So the first thing is I want a command buffer, right? Which then I can... We also want all the stuff. So there's all the JS packages as well already. So if I go to JS, so we've got all the DOM stuff, right? We've got the events. So we need to have something which is going to be running all of this. So this is setting for... Oh God. I know what I need to do. I've got to have some loop construct, don't I? I can't even remember what it meant to be doing. I honestly don't remember what I'm meant to be doing here. So there's a step I'm looking for, right? And step takes in the current timestamp. So current timestamp. And that's in... I'm guessing it's an F64? Plus the Odin context, obviously. So we're going to export that. And then there's also like... There's the end call... and the start, which we already have dealt with. This is just dealing with all the global data that we have to deal with normally. Yes, the Raymond library is very good. It's always nice to hear it in the full form. So this is our step function. This is effectively, we have the initialization. We always have the finalization stuff afterwards. And then we have this as initialization. Right? So... So we got to do stuff in here. So we could always just do the problem is we've got to have some data in here. We can just use global data. And this may sound like, oh, that's really bad. But it's like, it's kind of the point, right? This is kind of meant to be I hate global data at the same time. But I'm like, where else are you going to get it from? Global memory is fine. So we need some state for this. Like this is going to be called our context, effectively. And we're just going to have the frame depth. So the previous time... and then the current time. So, what flipping functions did I expose? So we have the... time now is what I need. So that's in an Odin variant. Whether... Is it in time? Is that what I'm looking for? If previous time equals 0, right? In fact, yeah, let's just do context. Let's call this G context to be fine. If G context previous time equals 0, previous time equals current time step. And then what we need to do is that we need to do the previous time set. Oh, no. Current time, sorry. Like that. Current time. like that, yeah. And then that equals the current time. So that's kind of more of that. So then if we can figure out the delta time, yeah, from all of that, just going to be this. So this is just figuring out the delta time. So if we're going to import math mod as well, math mod the delta time. Let's do every second, shall we? Right? Let's say that's less than that equals exactly 0, which is not going to ever work, right? Is it? So you only need to do it once. So we need an accumulator, right? So we need effectively an accumulator. So when this is while, well, not even while, for this is greater than 0. In fact, what I can do here is just call this global context for the time being. Then call it context. So I now don't have to keep doing the nonsense I've got. We just need to disable some time here. So that would be just like -1. Funct.print what? And for some reason, the console, it just says hello once, right? So the step doesn't seem to be being called. Like that's exported. Step is exported. I'm not doing a Half-Life clone. No. So the idea here is I needed a name for my Flash replacement I'm doing, so I just went for Gordon. Because Gordon's alive! I'm not doing it, can't do the voice. I didn't even sound like Brian Blessed at this point. I also don't want to wake up my natives, because when you have to do Brian Blessed, you have to yell. It's the only way, right? The only way. There's no need to reassign it. I'm just taking the pointer of it. I'm just, because I can. Ming the Merciless, yeah. Right, oh god, we're doing really bad things. So here we've got the current time. The delta time is that. And then we're adding the delta time. But what is there a problem? Let's put ga in there. So he does get called at least once. Right? So, okay, so this isn't the current time. That is the delta time. So that is the DT. Oh, I'm an absolute idiot. I don't even know my own code at this point. But that's fine. Once we've figured that out, we'll be fine. So once this becomes greater than 1, we subtract it and we just print it. But like I don't ever see it. So this is going to be step. Step, it only gets called once. So why does it only get called? Oh, because you need to bool return true. When it returns fault, we're done. Okay, that was the call was wrong. What? Yeah. This is the case that we need to do. So we need to make sure everything's defined correctly in a sense. Oh, fine. God, this is what happens when you've not actually programmed in your own WASM code for like a year or two. It'll be fine. It'll be grand. Very grand. So yeah. So we got all that, and it just keeps printing what forever in our console. It also does it in this console as well. So there's 2 different consoles. If we don't actually supply it in our runtime.js, not runtime.js, index here, if I just do null, I can actually just get rid of this console. There's no need for that. That's just like a debug thing. I can have it here. Right? So that's always a good news to me. We have the initial. We do that, and we can just do this every single frame as well. So we've got, we're going to create a context here. We're going to, we've got the do draw, so we're going to do the do draw. Like that. And I'm going to pass the context in. So this will be the context, right? Doesn't make a difference at the moment. It's just the accumulated time. So it's kind of like the frame time. So when we only do the figuring out what we need to do the interpolation stuff when we do things later, right? What I need to do now is some more WebGL stuff, and effectively need to create up some shaders. I need to create up some command buffer stuff. But effectively, if I can draw a triangle in the next 15 minutes, I would class this as success so far. Just a success. So am I recreating the web flash player? Not exactly. So I'm not making exactly the web flash. I just want something in that spirit, that ghost, that essence, that whatever you want to word, which Germanic or Latin or whatever word you want to use. Right. So I'm going to try and do a WebGL triangle, and we need to create a shader for that, right? And I haven't dealt with WebGL in a long while, but I can completely guess it is something quite simple. In fact, haven't I written an example for this already? I probably have. This is what like annoys me. Did I not, or did I write it as a GIS and I'm not adding it as an example on there yet? I'm not showing all my GIFs because clearly half of them are private. My GIFs, because that's not what I wanted. I wanted to search. It might be quicker to actually search if I'm in incognito mode. That's WASM 4, that's SDL. This is taking me a while. There's a WASM example at least. It's a WASM assembler. No, I wrote a WASM assembler. Great. Yeah. Did I never release it? Yeah, I guess I'm just going to write this from scratch. How hard could it be? Really? We're going to start the clock. We need to imagine there's a clock on this screen, like somewhere, right? Because I'm not that clever. Start the clock in... I'm trying to think. We need a shader. We do need a shader, and I'm going to do like a rectangle or a triangle or something like this. So if I get a shader in here, we need the vert shader. So VS, so shader vert, like that. And I'm going to do that. So it's going to be version... Is it 150 we have to use? I don't... Actually, that's okay. WebGL shader version, because that's one thing. What does it use? It must support 100. Does it use 1500, right? It's not helpful. I just want to know what version am I actually supporting. Can we do like, oh, can we do 300 ES then? That'll be fine. Let's try that. That'll be grand. Main GL position is going to be, I don't know, 0, 0, 0, 1, just for the time being. I'm going to do a point, right? Because I want to be able to do 32 pixels, I guess. Just doing a point size, and then we're going to do this as the frag. GL frag color. We're going to go completely orange. Well, I'm already orange, but that's because I'm ginger. So it's not that kind of thing, right? So we've got all of this set up, and we need to create some shaders. So shader, create shader. So we have shader type. So we're going to call this program, GL program. So let's call this GL create. Is it, wait, did I have some helper functions anywhere for this? Or do I have to just do it all manually still? There are helpers. Create program from strings. Yeah, I'm not a moron. Program. GL create program from strings. So we have shader vert and the shader frag as the sources. Because you can combine them up as multiple things. So we're going to just do that. And the reason why you want to do that is because you may want the shader header, right? And what you may be doing is version 300 ES, new line, new line. And then you can just ignore all this crap. In fact, we only need one new line, really, don't we? We can then just go da-da, da-da-da-da. They all include the same thing. This then checks to see if the program is okay. And I'm going to put okay as there's a bool. I'm going to assert okay as well. And then we've got the program. So then we need to do a destroy call. Because we want eventually... It doesn't really matter because it would be fine. There's a return there which says that's true. Now it's crashing. It says GL frag color unidentified... Not undeclared... What? Is it because it says 300? Let's try 150, right? Not supported? Where? Get WebGL version then. Major. Minor. 2.0. So we've got WebGL 2, yeah? What is the shader version? Like, I thought 300 ES would have worked. Like that, yeah? But maybe I shouldn't be doing the trick that I'm doing here, and I should just add it on. Drinking hash is only aligned with constants. Yeah, but that is a constant now. What? GL is an undeclared identifier. Is it? Have I, like, defined the shader wrong? Someone's going to tell me that I am just retarded. I mean, slow, at least, close. Of course, I'm using that as a technical term, but, like, that's the frag shader. Huh? Oh, is it because I also need to set the... I don't get this. Right, so I'm trying to figure out why that doesn't work. I swear I have done this before. Right? WebGL shader GL frag color undeclared identifier. Yeah, I'm not trying. I swear it should be frag color. Just putting the version in there is half the problem. Okay, so if we just ignore the version for the time being, it works. So we've got that. I just did a GL point, which is shit, by the way. And clearly there's no like viewport sizes or anything like that. So if we go to viewport, GL viewport 0, 0, and then we need to get the draw size. Yeah. So we can go GL that, GL height. That's fine. So that's now just doesn't matter, but we don't need to do points. We want to do is GL arrays for the time being. It will be, doesn't matter. So we just say GL triangles. We do first and counts 0. I'm going to do, again, the dumbest possible thing in the world for the time being. We need to get the GL vertex ID, right? I can't even remember how to do a triangle. Think it through. So we need to go 0, 1. Yeah, so that's 0, 1. And then we have... And then we need to go 0, 0, 0, 1 is the... So that would be 0... What's 0, 0, 1? I'm literally getting the dumbest one example in here I can possibly get. That's probably not the dumbest. GL vertex ID is not a thing. Is it not? Great, because I'm using... This is for... Oh, for God's sake. You know it's supported in a version... I'm like, oh my God. Right, I'm trying to do the dumbest thing possible, but clearly it's not even liking me to do this. So, first off, let's add stuff like this. High precision floats. Medium precision is probably good enough as well, but like high precision is going to be fine for this. We've created the shader. We need to give it some buffers. God, I'm trying to remember how to do old OpenGL at this point. And we need to set some, like... Right, let's just do the thing. I'm going to define an array buffer, okay? Oh, I didn't want to do that yet, okay? But I guess I've got to. Yeah, so I'm going to do 0, 0. Just put them all as 0.0, so everything kind of fits in there. So that's going to be 0.5 to 0, let's say negative. And then that one's all, they're all going to be like that. Right, they're the vertices. We're going to create a buffer. Add it there. Buffer, GL create buffer. Simple enough, right? Let's look at whatever buffer data. So GL bind buffer. GL, not, sorry, it's GL. GL buffer data. So this is, I can't even remember what the target's meant to be. I think it's an array buffer, right? So when I bind the buffer, I've got to say which one it is. Yeah. And then I've got to set the size. So that's going to be the length of the vertices times by the size of the vertices. Or, yeah, size of the vertices, 0. Then I've got to put the data in there. So raw data of the vertices. And then the usage is going to be static for the moment, I think. So static draw. So we've uploaded it to a buffer now. So then when we come to draw it, we can just go bind buffer, array buffer. And then we just need to do a is it in, or is it going to be in like that? So we're going to call it attribute in, but I think it's attribute is what I need to call it. Pass that to that. It's printing now. Something's printed. Oh yeah, because the version. That's what I was printing. But that isn't necessarily what the thing that needs to work, right? I think I probably didn't do that right because I didn't do any the locations or anything like that. Or maybe I'm wrong. It keeps saying what, and I don't really need that. So, we're getting along there. Yeah. Thinking this through. Why doesn't this work? So we're using a program with the binding the buffer, and then we're drawing the arrays. Right? Right? Do I need to? Oh no, okay, so I'm not that clever. When we're rendering, we're going to use the program. We need to get the position attributes. So this is going to be the... We need to get an attribute location, right? So context.program. And then we need to get a name. So that's going to be the a.position. And that gives us the location. Yeah. That's the first one. We need to then enable it. God, I forgot all about this. Attrib array. And then vertex attrib pointer. It's something of this like faults 2 times. It's the size of that, and then it's. I guess that's nil. That's not right. Is it point? Is it pointer? Yeah. And then the last one is it should be 0, not nil. Sorry. Woohoo! We got something. We got something. Yeah, that worked. We got a triangle. Has it been more than 15 minutes? I guess someone's been timing, but I've been kind of figuring this out as I go along. So, we're getting there. We got a triangle. We know we're there. But this is not good enough because this is not like good enough. Okay. Okay, so now we need another one here for the color. The offset on this is going to be the size of 2 of them. And they're going to be 3 of them. And then I'm going to take that to be the color. Varying a color. No, V color, sorry. Yeah. God, I'm having to use the word varying rather than in and out. It's kind of annoying me, actually. Now, for some reason, there's no anti-aliasing on that. What the hell? That looks dreadful. Seriously? That looks dreadful. Is it because the actual like draw buffer size is tiny? That's kind of my hunch. Inspect. There we go. Why did that look bad? But when it wasn't that, yeah, it still looked bad. So what is the resolution that I'm actually rendering at is the question. Just do the dumb thing again. Tiny is what it is. So the draw buffer width needs to be set. Yeah, because the canvas size never even set it. Right? So if I go to the index thing here. Like I just want to set the canvas size. Okay. But what? Where do I set this? Probably someone knows more about this. I'm not zoomed in. WebGL canvas draw size. I want it to be different on each one. Like this is the draw size, but I want to set the draw. Like this is tiny. But this is more of a resize. Is there a resize? Weird. I might be one of those. I'm not zoomed in. The problem is there's the default draw size for it and it's tiny. But it's one of those where I kind of need to query it every single time. So when I look at the runtime.js and I look for the step call right at the bottom here. Yeah. It's giving me the context. It's giving me the DT here. It says F32. It should be F32. I'm putting as F64 there, but I'm like, it doesn't really matter, does it? Yeah, that is weird. So I remember doing this somewhere. Now I can modify the thing about JavaScript, but there's no real point to that. So we should probably just do it in here. So when we do the step, the draw size is probably a better way of putting it. We've got all the JavaScript stuff, so we can just do that as well. And get the DOM. There's some events here. All the event listener stuff. General, page allocator, the runtime crap, the DOM all targets. Set element value. Okay. Okay, so we're going to get that. We need to get the GL context name. And then that's not correct. What am I doing? Effectively, I need to call a resize canvas to display size in here every single time. Right? Right? But it's not found. I'm just trying to think. We could probably start modifying this, right? That's not actually the hard problem. If exports first dot, oh no, if we're not looking for exports, we need to do document get element by ID. So Gordon canvas. I can never remember which one to do, but I think it's const, right? Yeah. If GC and if GC, first off do that. Display width equals, is it the client width? And height. Const need resize. If width doesn't equal that, or height, and that just needs to be capitalized as well. This will tell me if I need a resize. Oops. If need a resize. That's not even spelled correctly. Bloody hell. Why don't you tell me? And then canvas.width equals display width. And then height. And then that should be fine. No, canvas not defined. I just wrote canvas. I meant GC. Okay, so now that does a canvas resize, which is fine. We could probably add that as a call, but this is going to be not our runtime.js. We're going to call this Gordon.js, right? Perfect. Now we've got a triangle here. This triangle is still not got any viewport matrix or anything like that. So we're going to have to import the math.linaug.glsl, and I like calling it GLM because it's the GL math stuff. And then we're going to have to start doing a uniform here. So we're going to have to do uniform MVP effectively, right? And then we're going to multiply that together. It's going to compile, claim, because we haven't actually dealt with the stuff. Yeah? Makes sense? So we need to get the uniform location. Context.program. And then we need to go for the MVP. And then we're going to go set uniform matrix for F, like that. GL matrix location. And then we need to put the matrix in. This is the MVP matrix. Yeah, I don't know why I put semicolons here. Okay, so the MVP matrix, that's going to be it's a mat4. I think it might be lowercase. We'll just put the identity in there, yeah? And it says MVP, unprecise, like that, yeah? And in fact, we could go full on correct and go M4 by 4. No, it doesn't work. 4 there, right? That's just doing that. So then the thing we want to do width and height. Like that. We can then do the first thing we need to do is GLM, and then we're going to do like an author matrix. We could do perspective. We could just do perspective. There's no actual reason why we couldn't do that, right? I'm just trying to think of a good perspective matrix, but even that point, I could just do a rotate, right? GLSL rotate. Yes, mat4 rotate, obviously. And then we want an angle of rotation for the time being. So we want the z-axis. And then we want the amount of radians. So that's just going to be the current time, effectively. So we just call that accumulated time. So we could just do that. Right? So that's working. Got it rotating. But effectively, I want to do a look at it and then also do the... so we're going to just do this. So we're going to do GLM mat4 look at. There's a look at in here, right? Yeah. So my look at, I'm going to put the eye at like 1.2, 1.2, 1.2, like meters away. The center is going to be 0, and then the up vector is going to be z is equal to up. I'm going to multiply them all together. And I don't see anything now because there's no projection matrix. So I need to do the perspective. So I need something in radians here. So GLM radians. Let's go for like 60 degrees for the time being, yeah? Now we need to do the aspect ratio. That's going to be the width. So if we do here and just go aspect. All right, that's the aspect ratio. A near and far plane. So we'll say like, I don't know, that many units and that many units. Multiply that. Is there not radians in here? There is, but it doesn't know which one to use. Okay, so now that's kind of working. But there's this other problem here is that we've got the things here. So if I do 6 and we do a square, right? Because the current one is going to be looking a little bit, well, bad. So we need some decent positions for our, like, square. So if I just figure that out in my head. Okay, I'm just figuring out this right? And the next one's going to be plus, and that's, yeah, minus, and then they're both going to be minus, minus. But we need to then copy that again to get the other triangle. Before someone says, why don't you use an element buffer? And the answer is, sure up. There we go. Oh, now, this is also another thing you may not know, is that is not color corrected. So, well, that won't work. So we'll have to do Vec 3, won't we? That did not work as I expected. That was worse. That just looks bad. So I don't know. This needs to be like sRGB corrected slightly, but hey ho. We got that. This stream will be on YouTube if I put it on there. It should be. It's great, right? So we've already getting WebGL stuff working, right? Which is pretty damn cool. You have to kind of admit that is pretty damn cool. I'll put 600 pixels in there, and I don't want to do 100%, because if you do 100%, it doesn't do anything. Right? If I zoom out, 100% is not the correct like answer to the question. So that's why I put the 600, but it might be better to do like 100 VH, which is too much, because then you've got the Gordon's Alive thing at the top, which is not, which is why I don't like any of this. I'm like, I just figure out what the, literally, can I pin it down to the end? You could pass the render info into step. This is the thing, is the runtime.js thing that I've got here is very much, it's not runtime.js anymore. It's this JS package is kind of going to be what this is going to be. Like, it's going to be like this thing here, but it's very much like this needs to be redone. Makes any sense? So I'm trying to figure out what I could do to reset this, because this could be a function. We could just expose this to the user and it wouldn't be a problem. But like, there's no real reason why we shouldn't have this set every single time, if you know what I mean. So we got all this kind of crap, and I hate that I have to do this. This is old OpenGL crap, and it's just bad. Like, really bad, to be honest with you. In fact, most of this, I don't know why I'm splitting them up when I could just go. There we go. So we've got all that working. Yeah, you could do some calc CSS stuff, but I'm lazy. And I also hate CSS because it's stupid. Right? You've heard it here first. So we've got this working. Now, this is clearly nothing like what I was aiming for. I just wanted to see if I could get something up and running. So there's going to be having to be two different modes when you're rendering. You're going to be wanting 2D mode and then 3D mode. And both of these could be different viewport. You can actually render the same thing. Sorry, that was quite loud. Render the same thing and then it works. Right? So it should be possible, what I'm doing. But how do we design that so it goes well? Now, we're going to go to full camera and think this through, right? We're going to think. Because, well, for the most part, that's kind of what I have to do anyway, is think. And it might be a bit stupid if I didn't do that. But yeah. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to it. You made it. It got there. We got there in time somehow. But my view is, with the rendering system, we kind of want a command queue, and we also want to minimize all of the... Now, I need to remember what I've done, right? Because I need to figure out what WebGL 2 even supports. Because it's one of those where I'm like, I would love just to have a giant like shader storage buffer object in like WebGL terms, right? So they have, what type of buffers do they have? They have a normal buffer, frame buffer, program, render buffer, shader texture, query, sampler, sync, transform feedback. Transform feedback is something never need. And then you also have a vertex array object, which is like I'm not even using one. Like, vertex array objects are just stupid, to be honest with you. Like, okay, how to phrase this? On NVIDIA, they're at least that's normal OpenGL, right? They're stupid on NVIDIA, but on like AMD, you do, and Intel, you kind of have some benefit to them. But in general, it's more of a, I don't know what's going on here. So I need to figure out, how do can I do like an SSBO with WebGL? And I only need a readable one, right? Because my idea is if we can just waste 64 megabytes, quite a lot nowadays, right? It's not, it's tiny. But can I do this? Or am I going to have to figure out a completely different system? Because my view is if we can upload the data every single frame, it might be better because like bandwidth issues. Like we don't even need a VAO. Like VAOs aren't even necessary. That's kind of the point. Like they're just kind of useless at times. I understand the old idea, but so I'm just thinking all this through because it's very much a. We wanted a Flash alternative. Most Flash stuff was 2D only, right? It wasn't really 3D in oriented, but Raylib is like. And the question is, Raylib for like C-like stuff, and even Odin, obviously like that, because we have shit without Raylib as well, has been godsend for people. Really has been a godsend. So I'm not even looking at the camera. Sorry, the camera's right here. It's been a godsend for people, and like Raylib has, and people love it. I have loads of issues with Raylib, but it's more of a Raylib is good for prototyping, but it's not good for the final thing. And that's not Raylib's fault. Like it's meant to be a teaching tool plus a how do I phrase this? A prototyping thing. Like that's what it's meant to be. So the question is, yeah, WebGL cannot do like direct state access stuff at all. No. Yes, you could do stuff. It's just very much like what kind of style thing you want to do. Because the idea that I've got, if I go back to my camera, sorry, and just do some, just sketch something out, right? Let's go back to the scene. We got to here. My idea is you're going to have a draw list, right? So you can have a draw list, a list for the draw operations. And effectively in that, you're going to have your vertex buffer, which stores a vertex, whatever that is. And then you're going to, whatever in there, just plus your vert length, right? And then you're going to have your primitive buffer, because you can have two different buffers in here, right? Now this vertex is technically, no, I'm thinking about how would I do this in one draw call, because you kind of want to minimize it. The only problem with one draw call approach, yeah, it's not going to work. Because the one draw call approach works well if you don't give a damn about like state change, or you know it's a minimized state change, like you're not gonna have many textures. But this is something we don't know how many textures people want. In fact, people probably just want to swap textures all around. So we do want a primitive thing to set up, and then it would lower it down to what it needs to be. But then at the same time, Gordon Bennett is the real answer to this, right? I can do loads of Gordon jokes. It's great. So this is the idea of what this doesn't necessarily make sense for the command buffer, because it you'll need a I'm just trying to think, how do I minimize the draw calls? Like it's obvious at the end of the day, right? But it's also not obvious because it's very much like I'm trying to make something generic. And making the generic thing isn't always easy to do. Because again, it's generic by its very, very design. So it's... Oh, don't use ECS. Oh god, I need a bot on the Discord server, and even probably here, that says, don't use ECS, it's not for you. Anti-component systems are definitely not for you. Trust me, they're not. Are all textures the same size? No, they won't be the same size. Like, this is the thing, is people will be making games out of it, they'll have textures in there, and they'll all just be different. So it's very much a... what is the better approach to this problem that I don't know of? Also, that lemon posse is nice. I'm just trying to get the scraps. I don't know why I'm wasting the scraps. Like, there's a little bit left there. Very good. And judging by the ingredients, it's actually good. There's not much in there. There's only one ingredient in there that looks a bit weird, which is the gelling agent, which is agar. But otherwise, it's just milk, lemon juice, the agar, citric acid, and some cornstarch. Which sounds fine to me. Yeah, ECS is always too much for everyone. Why do I care about draw calls? So more draw calls means slower. So when you're thinking about GPUs at the end of the day, you're trying to minimize bandwidth effectively. Like, bandwidth is an issue. And when you're doing draw calls, it's a bandwidth problem. You're uploading every single, like, you're telling the thing how to do it. Yes, it does get scheduled and stuff, but minimizing draw calls can help. And I'm also thinking about, like, I'm having the sprite, quote unquote, sprite thing built in, because that's kind of what you want, to a certain extent. Now, when we look at like Raylib, right, we go back to Raylib, and I'm going to just draw, you can draw a pixel, you can draw a line, you can draw all these wonderful things. But the question is, how does Raylib implement them? Now, I'm going to show you, just because I already know, like, it's not like I'm asking a rhetorical question. Well, not rhetorical, more of asking a question that I already know the answer to. So if we go, I just don't know where the Raylib code is. Well, I've got Raylib code in here, haven't I? So, let's try draw a pixel. That's not going to work, is it? It's not in there, is it? So it's going to be... I thought it would have been. No, it's not going to be in the header file. Like, this is the annoying thing about Raylib, is it's just all over the place. In terms of its source code, but I'm like trying to figure out where it's just defined. It's like RLGL is where I'm looking for, and see how this has been defined. Like, it's got WebGL stuff, right? Which is kind of cool. You kind of have to admit. But it's got a lot of cool, it's got a lot of crap in here as well. So it's not going to work as you expect. So effectively, you can have different vertex buffers. I'm just looking at how it's doing the batching. So you've got different number of buffers. I'm going to see if there's an VAO supported. And it's going to bind them per batch. So the batch is load render batch. So if we go to RLGL Odin, load render batch. We have the buffer count, the current buffer, the vertex buffer, which has got all that stuff in it, right? The VAO, the VBO, the draw. You've got also draw calls in here, which is what this is. The draw count, the current depth. It's just when I'm designing stuff, because I'm also thinking it from a, like, to me, I normally wouldn't do a generic thing like this, but generic things like this are actually what people want. Yeah, one flat array is all you probably need. Yeah, probably is. I'm just trying to think of it like a library that would be nice to design, and I'm clearly just thinking this out on the spot. Usually takes a little bit longer than this, but yeah. So I'm just seeing how it does the texture stuff, which is on the state changes, obviously. But load default shader. Going to load the textures. Or no, not load the textures. Get the locations of those. This is where things get a little bit annoying when I think about Raylib, right? Because to me, it's like you've got draw pixel, you've got draw line, you've got draw everything, all these different draw things, which they all add up, obviously, but it's also very much like yeah, so you can see me pulling faces, just thinking through. Like, these are all very useful things to draw. Like, clearly I wouldn't design it this way in Odin because it's like there's just too much in here. And you just keep it, you just have at least one way of doing things. You wouldn't have multiple. Like, for instance, draw pixel, then draw pixel V. Yeah, I'd just have the draw pixel V. Is the short answer of it. You wouldn't have two. But then that pixel is, it knows the, like the drawing context. It wouldn't have to know what the size of the viewport is, so it can do 1 divided by that and put it in that thing. You're also going to have cameras as well. Welcome to actual programming. This is what actual programming is. It's a lot of thinking and not typing. Like, my fingers are here. It's just more of a, I've got an idea what I want to do in my head, but at the same time I'm like, I don't know if that's necessarily the right idea. Because a lot of the times you're wanting to draw things, and each frame is when you want to draw it. The anti-aliasing depth test, the depth, that's going to be all fine. Yeah, it's not necessarily the problem. Because I'm thinking from an API design stance, where I'm like, let's say draw a circle. This is all draw circle. When I look at the circle, like, this doesn't have anything on there. Like, it doesn't even tell me how many segments there are. So the idea I've got in my head, right, is you've got a command buffer. You've got you push to a command buffer and then you draw it effectively, right? That command buffer goes and does the magical thing, but it's very much a, yeah, it's going to do that. Is what you want. You want to say draw this, draw that, draw this. You're passing in the context every single time. I'm thinking, firstly, we need to move most of this into Gordon, right? That's the first thing I need to do. Move most of this into Gordon. Yeah. And then with the Gordon one, as soon as you import it, step gets used as well. So, like, it's going to be there, right? So it's going to be very much a, you need to initialize Gordon. So we've got the global context, which is going to be private. We're going to have an init procedure in here. And the init procedure for Gordon is going to be the context name. So that's going to be the canvas ID, right? Which we're going to have a default, but you never know. You could always have it overridden, obviously. Canvas name, or canvas ID, I should say. Default canvas. Yeah, default one, because you're going to have multiple of them, right? So, and shit, you can't just have a global context because you could have multiple of them on one page. Yeah, that's the problem, right? So, to begin with, we'll just have this. And I'm going to call it a Gordon context. Yeah. Then we're going to do the init thing, which is that. So Gordon init global context Gordon canvas. We don't even want the default canvas name. Canvas ID. Okay, we're going to put a bool in there for return. For return. Return true. The canvas is handling the step here for us, which is fine. Absolutely fine, in fact. We've got the do draw, we've got the canvas, we've got all this nonsense. The main we don't need, but we've already implemented that into the init. So we've got that, so we can import Gordon. And we just need to initialize Gordon, effectively. Gordon context. Oops. And then we have the global context, but that isn't the global context because it's like the step function, but how does it know which context to use? Right? So we have this step, and it doesn't just take the current. Yeah, this is the thing, is we can have multiple though, can't we? So it's not really a problem. This is where things get a little bit annoying, right? You do need a global context per thing. Ah, you fucker. Okay, so this is where the API design. So for people who don't understand what I'm trying to think of, right? The problem is I'm thinking of, what if you have multiple canvases? And you can render to multiple canvases with one WASM call, right? So you can say, oh, and here's one I want to render here, this goes to the hint here. Then you can have multiple different things, and they just render whatever, right? That's not a problem. The problem I've got is trying to figure out, like, how do you design that system to work? Because when you do the draw call, it's going to be in the user land, right? So you're going to have an update call, which takes the current context. And then you're going to have to say which thing you're setting to be drawn for. So when you do the draw, you have to, it calls it back, but it's very much the, you're going to have some callbacks, right? I hate callbacks, but it's necessary for how WASM works. I mean, not WASM, how JavaScript works, really. So effectively, we have to have the step procedure, right? Which is going to have the context and the delta time. Yeah. And that step is going to be the update loop, effectively. Not to call it step, we just call it update. Well, no, we call it step. It's not actually a problem to call it step. So when we initialize it, we have to have the step routine. Yeah, and we don't even need the... Do we need the Boolean? No, we don't need the Boolean in that particular case, but we do need it in other cases. So, we're going to make sure the step is all right, because then we can set it. So then when we come to this, yeah, we can then do that on the actual step. And then we can do the draw for it, but it's very much like that doesn't help because we need to then draw the current current canvas effectively. Draw canvas. Canvas ID. But it's very much like we've set up the current canvas ID, but we need to set up the current canvas ID. No, but we just need to draw the canvas. Right. So that's not even setting up. So we haven't got the context set up yet. So this is going to be a global. So global context, Gordon context. We pass that in by pointer. And we need to set the like a step function. And then the DT. And there's no return on there, so that's fine. So we can then pass the step into there. We have global context on that actual step, but like... It's more... This is where, the more I think about it, the more it thinks it doesn't make much sense. It's just annoying because it's like, okay... That step needs some sort of context to even be called. So effectively you have to have some sort of global state. Because when you do this loop, right? Look, when you call this loop, it calls the start and then it looks for the step. It looks for that step call. And you have to do this loop. And it does it on the... It doesn't have to be. Right? Like people say, why don't you just scale back and think of one canvas? No. I want to get it kind of right the first time because I'm thinking about what about multiple canvases. Because it's one of those where it's like, yeah, you can just think about one and then you fucked up and then you also make loads of the same mistakes that Raylib made. Like this is one thing is if you can try and make it a library, do so. If it works with the context, do so. It's more of a each canvas can have its own context and then you can initialize it and then just not worry later. So it's just one of those like, why am I worrying about the hard things? Like, because this is actually the foundation. You made sure it's correct. So this runtime.javascript thing I had originally is now going to become the Gordon.js, which is going to be an extension to what I had previously, but it's very much like, hey, it works. Gordon's probably not the final name, by the way. It's just a name. It's just literally some guy's name. So that's making me think. Oh, I know how to make that work. I'm actually got some smarts. So these context things, We're going to just call this next. We're going to call that next. I'm going to have it as a private, kind of semi-private field here, right? And then all we need to do is we have a private global context list, effectively. And just have a like a linked list, effectively, at the end of the day. Yeah? So once that's all got through to the end, and it probably would by now, is if that global list is equal to nil, that equals the current context. Else, if the current context, we're going to get the current context equals that. Like that. So we have, if the current context, sorry, if the current context doesn't equal next, we set that, and then we set that. So it's just a singly linked list, right? So then when we get the current context list, right, we can then go like that, yeah? Just call that draw. Why am I saying draw canvas? It's just draw. So we also do the thing there. So we have one global, but everything gets there. So Odin cannot have a Go routine-like scheduler. So this, I understand why people love it. And by the way, I love it as well in Go. But it's something you actually have to do at the language level, because you have to be careful about how those green threads work. So for people who don't realize, green threads require a very, very heavy runtime. And that very, very heavy runtime means it has to be, literally, it pervades and through the language. And it means anytime you have to do a call to the OS, it has to be pinned to a thread, which means that you have to do. It's not something you could just add to Odin. You have to design the language around it. And that also means you kind of have to have manual memory management, which is literally, it's too big of an idea that it's not viable for Odin. That's all I'm going to say. So I've just got that context there working. So if I, oops a daisy, refresh that. Now it's working as I expect. Now to prove, we could have multiple different things in here. This thing here, we need to register contexts, canvases to be resized, right? What we could do is we could look for classes, right? We could call it Gordon classes, right? So we only have to do it's effectively dot get elements by class, right? And then just do a loop for that. So I can't remember. It's a for each in there, right? I don't remember how you do for each in JavaScript. It's like that, isn't it? No, I don't remember. I forget languages. And I know there's a method you can do, which is like, oh, sorry. For each. And then we need to have a function here. So this is effectively like the GC, do that. So now it's crashing. It says get elements by class. It's not get elements by class, is it? It's get elements by class name? No. Get elements by class name. It's a Gordon canvas, yeah. Then what I'm going to do is, but for each, this is not a function. Is it not? I thought for each was a function. I maybe it's just simpler to do a for loop. So let I equals like, or let GC in like Gordon classes. So like that is what I'm trying to say. And now it's kind of like it's not found anything. Right, what's happened here? What, I don't see why it's not finding it anymore is what I'm trying to say. What have I done wrong? Like this let thing is clearly not right because look, normally I would just go for let I equals 0, I is equal to length dot length. Literally, I'm just doing the dumb thing. Like that. But I've got the class of a Gordon canvas. I've set the style. But what have I done wrong? Is it of instead of in? That's still not working. That's not what it's not doing the thing I'm expecting. It's not. So what's going wrong? I got to do a query selector, like all dot thing. Like I thought this was kind of the all the shtick, wasn't it? But why don't I see anything now? I do import the JavaScript file. What are you on about? It's been working. As soon as I got rid of it from being an ID. Maybe. Like, what is wrong? There's nothing wrong. It says there's nothing wrong with the code I've written. Yeah? Console. Refresh. So, there's something failing going on here. Is that prints? Is that context thing prints? Doesn't get to there. So it says if step equals nil. Maybe not check for that yet. There's a reason why I'm thinking this through. We go back to the main. We've got the step call. It doesn't do anything, right? Which is exactly what I was expecting. But, like each context should be drawn. It's got the context ID. Yeah, so canvas ID. So I can create current context with the context ID that I've just set. But there isn't a context ID on that. That's why it doesn't fucking exist. Oh, you idiot. Let's call this canvas 0. Right? Trying to find something that doesn't exist. I'm an absolute moron. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm going to have multiple contexts is what the idea is. Let's call this let's say context 0. Gordon context 0. I'm going to have Gordon Convex 1 as well. And just to prove that should work. The new stuff should work now, right? Yeah. I just want to prove for a fact that if I do that, I'm going to do a different size. So 200 and 100. They should be working. And not all return there, or all continue is what I really need. Right? That one's not working, interestingly. Even though they've got different IDs, they've got the same class. Why don't I see the other one? Right? Why not? Is it not because I can't allow for multiple context of WebGL on the one page? I thought I could. Yeah, it did work. By the for each is clearly working now. If I go back to it, like what I'm doing is clearly doing a for each loop. But look, there you go. Now it doesn't work because it's one of those where it's like, I need to make sure there was ones in there. But why isn't the first one working? Because I've just allocated some memory. And then things don't work anymore. Why? Why does this not work? I don't get this. Does anyone have? Can you have multiple WebGL context on one page? Is that actually a thing? So I think I know what I've done wrong. So I've created a context, but I never actually set the current context. So, but even then, that doesn't make any sense to me because I'm setting it every single frame now. And then it's not working. Yeah, I can have them as many as I want. I just don't know what... I know it'd be memory intensive, right? That's not the problem that I'm considering here. The thing I'm considering is that it's not going to be good. So go back to main, and if I ignore that one, this is number 1, it works. Now the problem is it might be because I'm doing this linked list wrong. Because I am. The linked list is wrong, so why am I... Oh, don't be drunk. I should be... Yeah, this is not the best. Okay, so think through, Bill. You can do linked lists. These are trivial. So, if the current... There's 2 ways of doing this. We could just do this. Don't even need a conditional in there. I don't even know why I didn't just do this in the first place. I am that retarded. I am. You heard it here first. I'm that dumb. I can't even do basic singularly linked lists. Yeah. At least we have Context now. We have multiple contexts. Everything is working as things. There still has to be a global variable, unfortunately, but it still has to be there. So then we have the draw call, which is technically private, but like you could call it manually if you wanted, but I wouldn't recommend it. We'll need a way to stop a context. Right, so we could do an is stopped check. And the way to do that is really simple. Like all I have to do is stopped. Is done. Right, it only does one frame. One frame only, and that's all it ever does. Yeah, Leo should bring linked lists. I know. I don't know why I failed at a linked list. I feel so bad. People are going to see this on like the VOD or like the recording on YouTube and go like, why did you do what you did? That doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I figured this out later on. So we need to have like a cleanup of this. So, WebGL program. We'd have to do the cleanup. Let's call it Finny this time, right? So we Finny the context. And then we can probably remove it. But like we want to do a singly linked list removed. So this is actually something. Okay, I'm gonna show something which people are gonna love. Because you'll be like, the good taste thing, like Linus Torvalds good taste. Now I can clearly do this like off the top of my head, but it's not that it's the good taste one is not even difficult, right? Yeah. It's more of a, this is how it's going to be done. So we need to remove it from this singly linked list. So we need to first get the head, which is the global. This is, what the fuck is that? There's your head. So 4p doesn't equal the current one. We're then going to do p is going to be the dereferencing of that of next. Right. Double linked list. And that gives us p. And then p is going to be whatever p.next is. Right? It's underscore next, sorry. And then I've got p here, so that's going to be dereferenced again, sorry. Oh, no, I've done that wrong. It's meant to be context next, so that's going to be whatever the next thing. So this, once this has been done, this never even gets updated ever again, and it gets destroyed. So the destroyed bit here is going to be gl delete program from that list, as well as the buffer. And we'll also have like an optional like Finny step. Finny proc. Right? So in fact, we don't even need to do that. We can just do that syntax. Can't believe I was that dumb. But it works. That actually works. So we're getting there, step by step. We're getting there. We're plodding along. We're getting to the destination that we're seeking. If anyone's not understanding what I'm doing, right? I'm trying to do multiple contexts at the same time, and yeah, just do stuff like that. So this, like, each context is going to have different, like, data to it. So it's going to have like user data. So we can just put like in here as user data, user index. Let's go for like a uint or just an int, doesn't matter. They can then pass that around, no problem. Now I've handled multiple contexts, we can now start dealing with the API that I kind of wanted to deal with in the first place. Especially since we're only targeting for GS. Gordon has to be assert Odin OS equals, like, is it JS I want? Did I mean JS? I did. So it only works on JS, right? I don't care about any other operating system. So we've got to that point there, and you get to see my nearly bald head as I'm thinking. There's technically hair there. There's just not much. That's all. Right. So what we're thinking through is the problem of now. I'm just trying to think of different, like, I've done the 3D thing, but I'm going to ask the question here. So if I'm doing a Flash alternative, I know I will eventually need to support 3D stuff, but effectively, like with Raylib, you would do the draw modes, right? Draw, like, how do you begin the 3D stuff in Raylib? So Raylib, draw 3D. And in fact, no, do the Raylib examples. Yes, the equivalent of void star and C is raw pointer in Odin. Yes, that is correct. So you can see this. There's always the 2D stuff, and then there's the 3D stuff. So if you do look at the 3D, effectively how the 3D thing works is you begin mode 3D. So you deal with different modes, and then you render on top. So it's kind of like the modes are clearly changing the shaders for you. Right, okay, so this is a wonderful question someone's asking. I'm going to read it out and I'm going to explain the differences. So this was actually, I was talking about someone this about earlier, literally earlier, and it's one of those little things which people think they're the same, but they're not. Right, you don't even know what I'm talking about, but right. So this is Patrick Smealy, or Smiley, I don't know, Smealy, I don't know, Smealy, I don't know, I apologize for wrong your name. Your name's going to be John now, right? Sorry. That's one of the things that I wonder about Odin. Can I add my own data to the Odin context and then use it? User data and user index is for that? Question mark. Can you show me how to use it properly? In JAI, you have add context, own data type, so you can get type safe own data in a language context. Now, this is a brilliant question because it's actually showing a philosophical difference and even like practical, like semantic difference between what JAI and Odin are doing. So JAI is Jonathan Blow's language. I don't know if that's the actual name of it. It's still like work in progress, but it is what it's being called at the moment, right? When John made the context thing, I saw it and went, wow, that solves a very specific problem. That's a genius idea. And I'll be honest with you, I don't even think John realizes what problem it solves, right? Because I have this in the FAQ of Odin. So the ability to even change the context to me, like the context is like fixed in Odin on purpose. Changing it means you haven't understood the problem you've solved with the context. So if I go to, not the FAQ, it's in the overview, implicit context system. Right, I just need to quote it here, pretty much. In each scope, there is an implicit value called context. This context variable is local to each scope as an implicitly passed by pointer to any procedure call in that scope, if that procedure has its own calling the Odin calling convention, right? The main purpose of the implicit calling convention is for the ability to intercept third-party code and libraries and modify their functionality. One such case is modifying how a library allocates or logs something. In C, this is usually achieved with the library defining macros, which could be overridden so that the user could define what they wanted. However, not many libraries supported this in many many languages by default, which means intercepting third-party code to see what it does and to change how it does it is not possible. Note, because you want to have an interception of third-party code, you have to have a well-defined ABI of how that thing works. And you do not want the third-party library to actually change how that works, nor your own code, because you're going to have to be consistent across the ABI, across like DLL boundaries, right? So this is the whole point, is you want to be able to intercept the third-party code. Jonathan Blow's kind of approach is more of like, I don't know, it's like static dynamic scopes, which is kind of like a bit of an oxymoron. I've said static and dynamic in the same phrase, but like it kind of is. It's like, oh, I'm just passing things around. It's just like a helper thing, and I don't have to type as much. And I'm like, that's not what this is solving. Like to me, I'm like, oh wow, I can override what this library is doing for its allocations if it's using the context, right? Or what it's doing for its logging, or what it's doing for its random number generation, or what it's doing for whatever. The other benefit is this: is we'll say you've got a callback, you've got a sort function, right? If you ever use qsort in C, you'll notice that it assumes that the sort like function is pure. So it can't define on like any user data, so it doesn't have a user parameter. But the Odin context thing gets around that bug. It is a bug, right? Where you can, run away of phrasing this, you can define pass it through by using the user pointer, and you get into that aspect there, right? Because you're trying to override the behavior. Intercepting as you've got this implicit user parameter. Well, this is the context pointer it's already doing. And you know if it's going to be called straight away, it's going to be valid, and that's how it works. This is the point of the context, in my opinion. It is an overriding behavior, not something to reduce typing, which is what JEI is for. And I've seen like John designing. This is where I have literally like language design issues with John. Like people go like, oh, it's context. It both exists in Odin and John's language. It's like, they're not the same. Like they have the same syntax, but like there's other differences. Like in Odin, I said it was scope based, which means it is copy on write, right? So copy on write means that once you assign a new variable to it, it creates a new context. If you've not used the new context previously, that means there's no backpropagation, which Jonathan Blow's language it is. So you have backpropagation. If you assign to a context just normal pointer, it's not special. It's not like a special variable or anything like that. But if you want to have push new context, you have to use the push underscore context like actual statement to do this. And I'm like, well done. You've now allowed things like third-party libraries to accidentally like insert code into the context, like all that crap. Like I'm not saying it's necessarily going to be malicious, but it's like even like malicious is the worst case scenario. But in the accidental case, like not even the worst case, but just like the accidental case, it's going to put some random crap in there. And it's not necessarily what you wanted in the first place. So this is kind of more of a, I've tried to think through what this solves. And like, I know Jonathan Blow hasn't thought about it in this context. I'm like, when I saw it, I went, wow, that solved that specific problem. John's done a different thing. And I'm like, look, that's his language, whatever he wants. Like, I just disagree with that decision, obviously. But it's like, it's just, that is not what I wanted, nor I think I solved. And it has to be a fixed thing. So to answer your question, no, you cannot add your own fields because then it would literally violate the ABI. Like the context is not there for you to minimize your typing. It is there for interception of third-party code with a standard interface. That's it. Nothing else. And it's also there as well. Like most people, I assume, never use custom allocators. So because they don't use custom allocators, you can intercept their code, obviously, because the allocators are on the context. I hope that's answered your question, Patrick. Or as I was pretending to call you John because I couldn't pronounce your surname. But yes, does that answer? A bit of a wordy answer, but it's also showing like philosophical language differences. And actually, they are not the same even semantically. They just share the same syntax. I'm glad that helped you. Sorry, that was just one of those where it's like, there's a lot there. Even if this explains it, the problem is sometimes it's not obvious to the user that that's actually the case. Right, said Fred. I'm not drinking that much, Lee. I've had about, what, 3 shots so far, which is still enough for a Tuesday night. It's Thursday. No, it's Wednesday. It's Wednesday now because it's just past midnight at the time of recording. So now it is Odin's Day. Welcome to Odin's Day. Oh, goodness sake. I do have to do jobs. I do have a job. But I do work at any old time of the day because it's kind of crazy. Right. Whatever. So we're going to get back to this. We're going to do some drawing things, which means we need to have a command buffer kind of thing. And my issue with the command buffer. Yeah, no, I know when you say what JI is also used for, but the point is if you can even modify the structure of the context, it misses the point, in my opinion. Right? I think that's what I'm trying to phrase. Like, because you can add things to the context means I think it's literally useless, actually. Like, it's not actually useful anymore. Like, or I say, not, it is useful, but it's useful for the wrong reasons, I should say. That makes sense. Okay. So I am now trying to think through stuff. So I'm trying to think. So I'm thinking if I'm doing a like command buffer, the vertex structure can have to be the same, which is really, really wasteful. Because for a lot of things, you just want to set a color. You don't need to set a texture. But this means effectively for your draw commands, if we go down to the draw stage here, you're going to need a vertex, right? And we're going to have this vertex be the 2D vertex. But it's also one of those things where maybe for like most people, they're going to... I don't know what people want to be doing. It's half the problem is I'm designing for someone who's not myself, which is never a good idea. Like for me, I would just like, here's 2D games and I'd be done with it. So maybe we should just like Gordon 2D. We could call this Gordon 2D. It may be fine, right? And just never care about 3D anything. And just deal with the 2D. But still have like 3D in there because clearly we're going to have depth textures and just exploit the depth buffer and all that lot, right? Yeah, but that you're explaining when you say the default context allocate and using that is it's not the only thing, right? So I was explaining in my like example here, where say you've got a sort procedure and you've got an array, and you've got your sort comp thing. Well, that sort comp thing, you may actually rely on some user data, which is like ... So when you actually use your comp thing here, we've got A, B, let's say T, and it does the comp thing. So that's the like the sort.comp, whatever. I'm making things up, right? You can then just get the data again from the context user data. Right? That's also another use for the context. That's the whole point. It is meant to be an interception. Like that is a bit more of a, that sounds like bad API design. I'm like, yes, it is. The context gets around that. That's another aspect of it. And having a fixed ABI and defined of that is kind of the point. Like clearly it's not completely fixed yet because we may need like change it. But in general, when we get to 1.0, it'll be fixed. And if we do need to change it, we'll add it on the end. And it's more of a make sure you don't change it between DLL versions. It's more your own fault at that point. But yeah, sorry, I was going to do the position, which is an F32. We're going to have a color. Should we go the full-on thing, right? And should we go English, right? Let's go actual English, not American. The color, I would probably go for a U8 because there's no point not doing anything else. But we could always just do like pos and color. We could have UV in there. Gordon 2D. Yes, I was thinking about Love 2D. Actually, this is the thing. Maybe we should just clone Love 2D and just call it Gordon 2D. American English is the correct English. Saying that... Wait a minute. I'm saying sorry. I'm English. I speak English, not American. Come on, get it right. Oh, that has actually made me think now. Love 2D is probably the actual like answer. It's just it's for Gordon is what we need to do. So it's probably the unironically better option for what we need to do. The more and more I think about it. Gordon. It's Gowden. That's Gowden, right? With a U in there, Gowden. Yeah, I think actually just going for like Gordon 2D is actually the better option. And then we don't have to worry about 3D. And for the vast majority of games I want to make on the web, like that's all I want to do. So maybe, just maybe, that's the better option. Oh, that is... The more I think about it, the more I think that's not a bad idea. I don't use Bing, I use DuckDuckGo. Even though DuckDuckGo is kind of based on Bing, I know, to a certain extent. But yeah. We're not doing Simp or Sigma. That is just cringe, right? Pure cringe. We're doing Gordon. 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 Yeah, you see what I mean? We're better. We're actually better. So I think, actually, the more I think about it, just copying Love 2D might work. Like, the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. Like, we don't need to do the exact API, right? Just the idea. Because the exact API would just be crap. But I'm just thinking about the UV wise now. So we've got the position, the color. Let's just do that. We've got the UVs, position, color, UV. Is there anything else I'm missing? Yeah, eventually we could have a change like a mode, but like this is just the vertex, and then we could have this the vertex 2D. 2D? 2D? I'm not actually that bothered how I'd write that. Let's just do a lowercase. It looks slightly better aesthetically. So now we know we got a 2D version of things, and we don't have to worry too much. We can also have a camera 2D. So camera 2D. What does like Raylib do for its things? We have offset. And in fact, because we're doing a library here, we can probably not just do the GLM stuff. We probably will have to expose a lot of that, but like, does GLM... No, GLSL... Like, they're all distinct, aren't they? This is one thing someone was arguing with the other day. Not the other day, it was like 3 months ago, actually. Why are these distinct? I'm like, yeah, they're actually... It's a good question, but it's at the same time, I'm like... They probably shouldn't be. They should be distinct, but it's also like, I don't know if they should. Because if I'm making this library for Gordon, they shouldn't be using the GLSL stuff. They should just make them separate. So... Oh god, not skier. Please, anything but skier. That's awful. Sorry, it just is. Yeah, it's bad. Right, I'm just thinking this through. Let's just do this for the time being. In fact, they're all lowercase. Which is fine, I guess. And then we've got map 4 as well, is what I'm thinking of. Like, people say, but for 2D, you only need map 3, don't you? I'm like, well, yeah. In fact, we don't even need to expose that ever, do we? So if we do the color for the U, because screw the Americans. You all need to spell correctly. That's your answer. I'm just making jokes, don't worry. This is the annoying thing, because the GLM thing is not... It's one of those where maybe I should get rid of the distincts on the GLM. Or maybe I should just use, like, not even bother with the GLM stuff and go just straight to the Ling Owl stuff, and then I'd actually get rid of those problems entirely. Like, the more I'm thinking about it, like, just using linalg directly. No. Oh. You know what? I don't know. Because it's something like WebGL does use the GLSL library, right? And they make it to be distinct. So the more I'm thinking about it, it's one of those things where my gut is it doesn't know what it wants, right? It's all these distinct things here. If I just delete the distinct, everything's going to work still, right? It all still works. It's more of a, should I allow it or not? Maybe I should. And the same with the HLSL stuff. Like, let's just remove them. Screw it. Like, I'm just thinking more and more I think about it. It's not that it's bad. It's just more of a, people don't like distincts. They don't, to a certain extent. Some people have been asking me if I do this for ages, so. I forgot to merge. No. Distinct's not the problem. Like, I know that's a joke, but like, distinct isn't. Distinct has its purposes and has really good purposes. I just think it's for math stuff. Distinct's probably still not good. Yeah, like the more I'm thinking about it, just keeping it dumb as hell is actually just like, people like doing their own types, even if they're using like very specific types, which they shouldn't be doing. But hey ho, they do it nonetheless. For some reason, at least. They do capital D's. I'm just thinking like vertex. That makes sense, right? Oh, like, this is the thing, is the Raylib GL stuff has more of the intermediate mode stuff, which I don't like at all. Like, it's not the API I ever want to deal with. So yeah, there's that. Right? So what I'm going to do here is, from the camera, right? We can push different cameras in. So I'm thinking a command buffer, right? So let's do a command buffer. which is this. And then you have a set of commands. And then the commands are going to be kind of, you're going to have a union at the start. So this is going to be the variant, right? And then you're going to have all of the stuff in there. In fact, we don't even need the struct. We just need the union for the command. And they're all going to be pointers to the thing. Because when you push a command, it has to be the thing. So it's like command... draw... Let's say just draw a quad. Right? Is the very first command you do. And all of these have to, of course, set the command on there. And then we have to do a draw quad. So the quad is going to have, like... It's effectively just going to have 4 different positions on it. So it's going to be the verts. And then that's it. Right? Like that. And that's the command buffer. So then from that command buffer, you can build up the vertex buffer. But the problem you're going to have here is that the vertex buffer, you're predefined, is going to run out of space. And when it runs out of space, you're going to have to do a draw command. Sorry, smash that. You're going to have to draw a command, and then you're going to have to do it that way. You're going to want the buffering. You do... Yeah, sorry, clearly I'm thinking this through as I design this. I may do the stream tomorrow as well, by the way. Just for fun, as you do. To say tomorrow, I mean the same day in the technical speak. But like, I'm just trying to think this through, because when you draw a quad, you may draw a triangle. Like that, yeah. You may even draw things like a circle. Or a line, maybe. So a line is going to have... It's effectively like 2 of that, and then plus the thickness. Right? Which is the same as drawing a quad at the end of the day, right? But it's just a little bit more... Yeah, we know what we're doing. So we have... Vector 2 for the positions. We have the color for the line. We don't need UVs for that. For a quad, we're going to have different types of quads as well, right? Because you're going to have textured quads and non-textured quads. So, like, when we draw a triangle, like, that's obvious what that's going to be. So, you have a quad. And that quad is just going to have, like, 4 positions for it. Plus the color. And to be honest with you, that color is going to be just one color. Same with a line. Like, I do have, like, something similar I already did. Well, the idea with the draw quad is you can also have draw quad... Not even... Is it quad, or is it going to be... You're going to have rectangle, and then textured rectangle, and then all that other stuff on top. Oh, God. It's just... I'm literally trying to think this through. You may not need the draw commands. Like, you don't probably need any of these draw commands. You can just build them up into the vertex buffer as you come along. But the problem with the vertex buffer thing is that it's more of a... You're going to have state changes, right? So the state changes are going to be like, hey, we've changed the camera. We've changed the shader. We've changed... That's about it, actually. There's camera and the shade and the texture. So camera shader and texture. So those 3 things currently will be the only things that I think could be the state change. But actually, no, the camera would be per frame, right? You don't have one camera. So unless you have render targets, shit. Let's not worry about that yet. That bit I won't worry about yet. So we have a camera which is not state change. The only state change we can have is textures and programs. Programs, to begin with, again, we don't have to worry about. It's only textures. So once we change the current texture, then we have to do a command buffer change, and then we'd have to add in the command buffer what we're doing. And it's not like it's a problem in the grand scheme of things, but it's not going to be like trivial either. I'm out of the shot. And I'm back. Okay. So this is clearly not the most interesting stream in the world because I'm thinking from a design standpoint. And you're wanting to draw something. The thing is, the more I think about this, the more I could actually probably get Box 2D working with. It's not far off when I get the right rendering done. Which means Gordon could have Box 2D in it, right? Or at least be compatible with it. So it makes me think that the other problem I've got, right, is you've got the position of each thing, and then effectively the position of each coordinate would have. You also want like a Z parameter. So effectively, you've got this other state things like saying, "Hey, this is this Z parameter." So just to keep it clear, let's say we got the vertices here, right? Let's just do the dumb thing in my head, right? So the dumb thing in my head, oh for fuck's sake, is you've got the vertices, right? And that's just say it's a dynamic array, just for the like demonstration purposes. You got the vertices. Then you have the draw calls. Yeah. Call 2D. Right? So you have a vertex 2D and then the draw call 2D. It doesn't really matter. Like, just to say that's a draw call. Just keeping it simple. We don't even have to think. Yeah, and the draw call, all that needs to do is we have the offset. In fact, yeah, the length has the texture. So texture, let's say texture ID. In fact, in this case, it would be a GL texture. We also have the shader, don't we? What's the program? It's the shader, right? We'll just call it the GL program. Yeah, it doesn't matter. We'll just go program. Yeah. That's what each draw call does. So it's more of a, we add all the vertices as we come along, and then when we've got a state change, we just update a new draw call, right? So if the current one is different to the current one, we just literally we just change it, and we don't even do any batching to begin with. It would just be dumb as anything. But like the batching kind of comes for free, just by like what you're doing. So yeah, that is the way I think we should do it. Does that make sense? So if I reserve the vertices, and the problem with the vertices is a lot there, right? Like how many bytes is that currently? Right, let's count that. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. That's 20 bytes in total. So I'm thinking, just to keep it dumb, like, let's just go for like effectively a million or Mibian. It's a Mibian, right? That's what we're calling it, a Mibian by default for the vertices. And then for the draw calls, I don't think they're going to be that many in total. So let's go for like 4 Kibians. I'm making up words now, right? So when we get to the draw buffer data here, this is still, it's not a static draw. It's technically dynamic draw we're going to have to do, right? And then we're not even doing this. We're going to do bind buffer. We're going to set that to be the length of the vertices times by the size of the vertices at 0. Yeah. And it's got no data that we're passing to it. That's just preserving the thing. The other problem I've got a question is with this vertice thing is do we want to have indices as well to track? Because that will reduce the memory, but not by much. So it's going from like 4. On average, it'll be like 4 of those will be 20. So 4 times, so let's figure this out. So for a normal quad, most things are going to be quads in a game, right? So 4 times 20 is just triangles, right? So 6 times 20 is 120. But 4 times 20 plus 4 times 4, that is going to be 96. So you are saving a little bit of memory from doing draw elements compared to draw arrays. However, how much of a difference is that really? 96 divided by 120 is what, 80%? So 96 equals 0. Yeah, it's 0.8. Yeah, right. So that's 0.8. So you are saving 20% more memory, which is probably not a bad thing in the grand scheme of things to do, especially on the web. But it's more of a, are you optimizing for... What are you optimizing for? When is the release on the Steam of this game? Well, obviously, that is going to be in the year... Blah, blah, blah. Obviously, I've told you that. There you go. Now you can put it on your calendar. So... I am just trying to think... Like, performance-wise, it won't make much of a difference. At all. Like, like, the draw raise is clearly going to be the fastest. And then, like, draw range of... Like, draw elements is going to be the next fastest. Because obviously it's got an indirection there for that array. But, like, it's more of a... Is it really much of a waste of memory, which I'm doing? Or not? Like, let's just do... Literally, let's do the dumbest ever, right? So we've set that all up, right? And then we're going to reset the GL bind the buffer. Let's call this not buffer. Let's call that vertex buffer. Right? And then I'm going to put that here. We've got the vertices, and then we're going to do raw data on those vertices. And that's now a dynamic draw, right? Every single frame, we're updating it. Not really much of a problem. We don't need to bind it every single time. We're going to just do that as well. We could bind it every single time. But what we need to do is for each time we come to step into it, we need to clear it. So actually, it's after the draw we can clear, right? So defer, clear context vertices, and then we also need to do the draw calls. Yeah, just clear both of them. Then when we come to it, it'll be for draw call in draw calls, let's just call it DC. Offset, and that's going to be the draw call length for the time being. The type needs to go from uint to int, and like, yeah, I don't know why I did uint. They just do them in int. It's just clearer anyway. That will work, right? So we've now got nothing in there. When we phrase it, there's nothing there anymore. So we've got rid of all of that data, right? But let's pretend that it even exists. So to pretend it even exists is we need to add a draw call, and we need to finalize it once we've done, right? If len of draw calls equals 0, is greater than 0, we get the last one, right? And then its length is going to be the last dot offset length of context of vertices, like that. So that will be fine. So if we then just cheat in this particular case, right? Context.vertices. And then what we're going to have to do is append a bunch of vertices. So Gordon vertex. We're going to do... But the problem is this vertex isn't even correct for the shader. So I've got to have to add it all correct now. So we've got... So if we go back to the vertex, it's got color and then UV. With the UV, we're going to ignore. Like that. Vertex. Offset of vertex color. Pos. And then that's got 4 positions in it, and then that's going to have 2 for the UV. We go back to float, volts, UV. Now we've set all them up. That says offset. I meant offset of. Right? That's still not doing anything, but that's exactly what I expect. So now we need to get the position. So position is going to be like 0. Like let's do the same quad thing again, right? So what did I do for the quad? Did anyone remember? Because I got rid of all that data. No, it's not going to do. Let's just do it again from like first principles. Because I'm not that dumb. I may be tired, but I'm not that dumb. Right? Okay, so it's going to be 0.05 and plus 0.05. And then the color, that's going to be... No, it's in 255, 255, right? We're doing those coordinates because then we're saving some memory. And normally I would not even bother what I'm doing. And then we have append context, draw calls, Gordon, draw call. And I'm just going to put it as blank for the time being because I know it works if I keep it blank. So the next color is going to be 255, 255. The next is going to be green. And then 255. Yeah, so now we need to figure out what the coordinates are. That's going to be, let's say, positive positive, and that's going to be negative. And those are both negatives. So that's 2, 2, 3, 0. Right, that one's working now. And then the second one doesn't have any draw calls in it, obviously. So that now works. But this is now doing the stupid camera position, which we never set what the camera was. So we need to set what the camera is for this kind of thing. Because the thing is, every time we do a step, right, which is technically our update loop, right? It's not the step loop, it's update. Let's call it update. You can hold the camera for the time being. Update. Right, so that's all there. This is clearly now working, and we've got different, like, state changes. So that's working as I expect. It's keeping it dumb as hell, and this is going to be always 2D. Like, do we care about 3D? Like, the answer is no, we're going to keep to 2D. So, that's going to be fine. Now, there's one problem I've got here is the depth testing. When we do positions, this should probably have a depth parameter in it. Right? And like, none of these have a depth parameter to it. So when we do the thing in that, that's what's happening. So when we reconfigure this, because this is not actually correct, we get that. Yeah. Now, clearly going to have to make a game out at the end of this as well, but I'm just trying to think. I'm probably going to go to bed in a few minutes because I'm really getting tired. You can probably tell my face or my talking. It's tiredness now. But you can see what I'm trying to do. Design it, come across, and just set it all up as I need. I've also called it a color there, but you know what? Let's call it a col. A pause. AUV. That can be that. Then none of them need to be in scopes anymore because there's no like pollution. That one can, but like the rest don't need to be. Okay, so that's working as I expect. Yes, it's one of those where like I kind of do want the camera to be there. So we have min depth, max depth, and then I'm gonna have default here. So the offset is going to be 0, 0. The target. So let's just do all this. And figure it out. So they're all going to be 0, 0. Rotation 0. Zoom is going to be, say, 1. I'm not sure what zoom is. And then minimum depth is going to be like minus like 1024. That's going to be like plus 1024. So when we add the camera to this list, each draw call is going to have a... Well, you can only have one draw camera per like thing, don't we? And camera 2D doesn't make any sense when we're not even talking about 2D. We only do a 2D, right? So that's kind of the idea. So when we've got that set up, we can just go, okay. We can go camera. Camera default. Dead simple. So now we've got the default. We know like aspect ratios and stuff that we need to deal with. Question is now with the camera default is what space are we dealing with? In pixels? I'm thinking what we're having to deal with. So if we know the pixel space, we need to do an orthographic camera, right? So if I go down to like the draw call, this needs to be orthographic. So if I put it back up there, load up where the original Odin stuff was, GLSL here. We only want an ortho no, we don't. We need a three-dimensional orthographic view, right? When we do, so the projection needs to be mapped to that. So we have left is going to be camera. Oh, camera. We have camera offset and camera target. I can't even remember what they mean in like Raylib. It is the displacement from the target. And then this is the like the rotational point, right? The center of the camera, right? I think that's what it means to be. So I'm going to ignore it for the time being. So I have .xy. So that's going to be the target. Yeah, ortho 3D. So we have .x. Okay, so I don't even know what Raylib does. So the question is, Raylibs is probably like not that far off what I'm expecting. So I'm trying to figure out what the camera needs to do. Because you've got the zoom, you've got the offset, it's going to be in pixels, plus the zoom changes the pixels, right? Shouldn't be this much of a problem. So effectively, the way I'm thinking about this is, first off, we need to get we've got the model, right? The model doesn't do anything. That's not even useful for this case. It's just the camera. Yeah, so we changed the name of that to camera. The view needs to be, right? Mat for translate. It's going to be effectively the camera target.x. In fact, it's going to be the camera target. .x. Camera target. .y. Then 0. Yeah. That's the GL translate. So that's going to be, I'm going to call this the origin. Then we have the rotation. It's not rotation, it's called rotate. So we know what the angle of axis is. That's going to be obvious. It's going to be into the Z face, right? And then we need to figure out the camera rotation. And that's going to be in radians. So let's call that rotation radians, right? Don't care it's so verbose, because then we know exactly what it is. Yeah? So we have the scale, which is going to be dead easy. It's going to be the map for scale. It's going to be camera scale 1. And then you have the translation. So ignore the projection for the time being. It's going to be the GL map for another translate. And it's going to be camera offset.x, camera offset.y, 0. Right? And then I have to multiply them all together. So make sure I've got the view correct. And it's going to be the rotation, then the scale, then the origin. That's for the view. But the 3D ortho thing is which is the most annoying thing. Because it's going to be an orthographic camera, right? But it's more of a, we still need to know. That just gives us the position, right? So let's just cheat, right? So the ortho camera is just the screen space. Yeah? So if I go to the ortho 3D, so we have the bottom left. So we have the left, which is 0. The right is going to be the width. The bottom is going to be, I don't know if we should have 0 at the top or 0 at the bottom. That's half the problem when you do cameras like this. It's more of a which one do you do? So if we have the bottom be the height, the top being that, the near is going to be the nearest in that, sorry, it's in that coordinate space, isn't it? It's going to be the min depth. So that's going to be the near. Yeah. And then we have camera far. Now I'm going to complain it because I'm like, where's the camera come from? Well, if I just do has no field scale. Well, it's not scale I was looking for. It was zoom, isn't it? Sorry. I refresh that. Nothing renders now, which I've probably, because I've done it wrong. And also, no, I've not done it wrong. It's because it's not even correct. So if I just -1, +1, -1 to +1, -1 to +1. Now I should be able to see it. But the thing is, what thing I rendered wasn't in pixel coordinates. It was in some other coordinate space. So it's very much like this zoom thing isn't necessarily the thing I want. The question is, what do I deal with? Oh, so I've got loads of issues with Raylib because it's very much like as soon as I wanted to use it, if you see my game streams, I was like, I always want to do the most advanced thing. It's always kind of frustrating to me. That's my main issue with it. And also the other issues I have with it is clearly it was very much like there's poor names for certain things which are like collided. None of it's prefixed. Like all of it should have been prefixed with RL to get rid of the namespace collisions. Like there are namespace collisions everywhere. And then lastly is also it relies too much on global content, like global data. So for what it is, it's not bad. It's just not what I wanted. Now I can't see anything, but if we change those parameters, right? We say those are like 10 pixels, and then the other parameters are at say 100. I should be able to see something there, and it works. Like that is now exactly what I expect. So we need to kind of add a call to this, if that makes any sense. So before we effectively just need to draw a rect. So draw rect. That'll be the draw all. And that's going to be definitely private. We want to draw a rect, right? So we have a position, we have a size, and then we have a color. Yeah, so then we need to just check to see if that and we have a context in here as well, sorry. If the context of draw calls equals 0, then we just need to add one. Like, not really add anything like specific, just add one, and then it'd be fine. And then we can just like add all of this data here. So this is the one of them is the bottom left and one of them isn't. So like none of this is even like correct. So we have to be very, I'm going to figure this out in my head. So we have pos is going to be the position. Let's just do A, B, C, and D, yeah? X dot Y equals pos. B is going to be size.x, but 0 doesn't change. C is going to be size. And then D is going to be the other way around. So size.y. Yeah? So then when we get to this bit here with the Gordon vector thing, nonsense, we can figure out what we want. It's going to A, B, C, C, D, A. Right? So then when we come to this, we can go Gordon.drawX. And then we can just say, hey, we want it at like 1010. We want it to be 100 in size. And then the color that we want it to be, we're not going to change all the vertices. I'm just going to do a lovely orange again. Yeah. And then we can have a draw quad kind of thing going on. We could have UVs in here as well. So that's going to be like 0, 0, 1, 1, 1. Just put 0, 0 in there. So that's going to be 1, 1, 1, 0, 1 that. And then that's going to be the position. But the other thing I'm going to have to get here is the current... let's say call that the depth. Do the Z and Z there. I've got a syntax error. Yes, that's correct. No, I haven't got a syntax error. What am I doing? No, that's all the syntax errors. So that is going to be a vertex. And then there's got the comma. That Z is... Z. We don't want to just do that. We want to do all of it. refresh. Now it becomes all that. That's wonderful. And then the draw quad thing is going to be like, effectively, I just need to have like that, right? So all I need to do is when I go into this, I just go vert 0, vert 1, vert 2. Vert 2, vert 3, vert 0. Yeah, so I can always do the old trick like this. So I can go draw quad individually. I don't even need to name them because they'll work. I'm looking for another column. Now it works, right? So you've got all of this working now. We've got the draw the quad, we've got the draw rect, and it's working as I want at least. Not necessarily expected, but it's working as I want. So that's kind of the fun bit. And it's starting to get there as well. So we can see I'm starting to make an API. So we could probably have the draw to Odin in there, right? For Gordon. And we could probably put all of this like draw stuff. Like not all of it, but like a lot of it. Let's put it all there, except the draw call. I don't know why I'm moving all that there. That's kind of like all like the default stuff, which has to be a part of the data structure. So we know what it looks like. But then we've got all of these like draw primitives. It's working as I expect. So you can see what I've got here. So we could always probably draw another rect, right? And that's going to be at 0, 0. No, it's going to be at 200, 200. I'm going to say it's 32 by 64 high. And I'm going to give it in the color of... again, not magenta. No, let's go magenta, yeah? So here we go. We got it. Now, I've already added the optional depth value already. The optional depth value is like a global that you currently set. So when you set the depth, it's going to be like in the stacks. It's like, hey, here's the current depth. You just set that value. So you literally just do the depth drawing. Like for instance, if I overlap this, right? And let's say this is actually at like 2020. Now it's drawing on top. But if I draw it this way around, clearly the draw order means you can't see it anymore. But if I put the current depth to be, let's say that's 1 and that's 0, now nothing works. But the thing is, there's nothing about the depth buffer that I did when I do the GL draw. So there is the GL depth buffer bit, and that should have worked. Oh, I need to like probably enable stuff as well. So GL enable GL depth. Oh, for fuck's sake. WebGL enable depth. God, this should have worked. Like clearly I'm setting a all the stuff that I was expecting when I'm doing this, because the current depth. But they're all at 0 anyway, so they're all raw. So this should have been 1. So it should have been above. If I put -1, like that doesn't make a difference. So I'm like trying to think, because it should be negative, right? Unless we go full on right-handed coordinate space. But no, it should be positive. No, it should be positive. It really should be positive, is what I'm trying to say. Maybe I need to, it's not depth I need to enable, it's geodepth test. Okay, now it works as I expect, right? So if I do a negative one, you don't see it. But if I do that, so that says GLNL vertex array index is out of range. How? They're there. Like, I'm adding them. Too many errors. I'm like, sure. Like, that's out of range, apparently? How? Doesn't look like it to me. But sure, whatever. So now things are working with the depth texture, because you're just saying set in the current depth. And then you just set the current depth. And these are obviously overwritten by certain quads. Right? Like, you're just literally adding the stuff to it. It's not really that special. But I think I'm done anyway. But the thing is, it's one of those where I'm like so tired. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. But I think that's gone well, if you ask me. So we've got something kind of working. We've even got depth testing working, which is kind of cool. But you can see where I'm trying to go with this idea is that you're trying to have like a general interface where you can make WASM work for people. So if you have the Gordon.js file and then you have your basic like HTML, like the HTML file, then this library will work. And you can have multiple contexts. You can draw to multiple things at once. It's going to work as you'd kind of expect. Now, does that mean it's good? Not yet, by any chance. But if I can make something the equivalent of like Love 2D like thing, where I can do what I want, then yeah, I think it's going to work fine. I'm going to be quite happy with that, to be honest with you. Like, quite happy. If anyone's got any questions before I go to bed, because I'm about that gone, please ask the questions right now, and within the next like 30 seconds. I hope it was interesting. I will upload this to YouTube, probably straight away, in fact. But yeah, it's trying to more of. I'm trying to figure out a thing, and also Gordon's probably not the best name. Clearly, that's just a joke. Because I was making a joke about Flash Gordon. Didn't gather that from the beginning. But yeah, that's kind of thing. So, I'm just looking at my clock right now. Yeah. There's a Django Effects shirt in the background, and also there's multiple Django Effects related things there as well. Jen. Effects. That's my work shirt. Clearly, I don't need to wear when I work, but that's just a different thing entirely. Hopefully that makes sense. What I've been trying to do today. So just trying to get a general interface. It works in multiple contexts, and that's it. You're very late. We're about to go. Like, I'm about to sleep. So sorry you're very late. But Gordon is many different things. That's all I'm going to say. You're going to have to watch the VOD or the VOD or the YouTube or whatever you want to call it afterwards. This probably will be available in... I don't know. Like, the problem is where at the moment is WebGL is in vendor, And it's in vendor because it's like where OpenGL is and all that lot. So that means Gordon would have to be in vendor as well. That's where I think it would have to live. And have a lot of documentation about how to use this. Because it won't be trivial to do. But like, I'm not doing the Norse names for all the different things. I think something else is necessary. Like Gordon is a bit too long. Like, I think 4 letters is probably the maximum you probably want to aim for, not 6. Because, like, even preferably, if you can shorten it down to 2, like Raylib, you shorten down to RL. Like Gordon, it would be GD maybe. I don't know. But Gordon's just a silly name. Like, it's not a silly name. It's a normal name. But I mean, the thing was fine. Yeah, we got some success. Like, clearly, I'm about to go sleep. Sorry, clearly we got this so far, if you can see this. Which I think is more than a success, in my opinion. But otherwise, I am now tired. And I must sleep. So, thank you very much for all for watching. And good night, everybody. Stay tuned for the next stream, which could be soon. I have no idea. I'm not going to make any promises. Goodbye, everybody. I'm so tired.